More party problems now, though in this segment we focus on the GOP and a new poll that's showing where a lot of Republican voters may be right now. Public policy polling, granted a very left-leaning outfit, asked Republican voters if they support bombing Agrabah. 30% of Republican voters said yes. There's just one problem. Agrabah is not an area that is ISIS-controlled, nor is it a troubled hotspot in the Middle East. It turns out Agrabah is the fictional country profiled in the movie Aladdin. You remember that one, the one where Robin Williams plays the genie and from where the song A Whole New World comes from? It doesn't exist, but that didn't stop 30% of Republicans from wanting to bomb it. Now, if you think we're bringing this up to make some sort of point about Donald Trump, well, you're right, of course. PPP says Trump, the faraway Republican frontrunner, is polling at 45% among those who want to bomb Aladdin, and he's only rating 22% with those who don't. And while I consider what that means about Trump supporters, consider this as well. It's the same Donald Trump who just had Russian president/dictator Vladimir Putin, the guy all Republican candidates want to get tough with. Putin lavished him with praise, like calling Trump a very lively man, talented without doubt, and saying Trump wants to go to another level of relations, closer, deeper relations with Russia. Of course, we welcome that. It almost sounds like a Putin endorsement of Donald Trump. And yes, I know that's an unfair poll. It's a trick question. And yes, with a name like Agrabah, people are going to say, yeah, we should be bombing it right now. But doesn't that say a little more than perhaps Republicans would like to be told about where their party is right now?
Well, I think we should bomb that place. I mean, what?
Did you really not like that movie?
No, I like Robin Williams' portion of it, but the rest of it, I think it says something, but I think people are just, it's hard to remember a lot of the names, to be quite frank about it. But, Donald Trump, I mean, he's still, and I've said this before, he's not going to be the nominee. It's going to be Cruz or Rubio, in my opinion. And meanwhile, people like Putin are having a great time watching.
Though when 30% of the country just wants to, 30% of the party just wants to bomb a place that has an Arab name to it, that's the kind of ammunition and oxygen that Trump needs.
I think that poll is sort of more of an indictment on public education, perhaps. But the other thing, Democrats actually in that poll is 19 or 20%. Said the same thing. Mm-hmm. So, the polls can be skewed. The questions can be skewed. So that seems to be more of a joke.
It is, but from the Republican debate Tuesday night on CNN, it was 12 degrees. Actually, there were only 10 people on stage. It was 10 degrees of how to figure out how to bomb the Middle East and take them. It's a very aggressive posture in the party right now.
Yeah, indeed. And, in watching the GOP debate, and, if we're talking about Donald Trump, the one thing that struck me is all the candidates, I think a lot of them had a strong night. Some of them came with a lot of substance. Donald Trump, though, came with no substance, and yet his poll numbers and his support does not go down.
Like the 30% that want to bomb Aladdin. That's a no substance position. Also, Dom, this is the environment. If you were in an environment 4, 8, 12 years ago, Trump doesn't survive that. Trump doesn't make this kind of splash in the Republican Party.
I will not comment on that alleged poll. Let's put that to the side for a second.
Fair enough, but the Donald.
But Andrew, the point that I think is being missed in this conversation, it's not just 30% of the Republican base that want to bomb somewhere. I would say 30%, if not more, of the American public, of all Americans, not just the Republican base. So that's why I respect what you said, County Exec, that he won't be the nominee. I'm not so sure because he's tapped into anger. He doesn't have to have substance. He gets up there. When I need to be entertained, I watch a Trump stump speech. And it's amazing to watch him. He just talks. No substance at all. None. But it connects.
I think it's also an indictment on the incumbent class. I think the public, the American public, wants a plan. They want a strategy. They want to hear what we are doing, and they're not hearing that.
I think that's a fair point. But I think you have two competing and very compelling interests that are sort of at odds with each other, which is the desire, we got to do something about this ISIS thing, versus a lot of Americans who still don't want to go back to war. They don't want to, they've had enough. Afghanistan and Iraq were too much, and there's no, or there's a greatly reduced desire to go back and put people in harm's way. Where do you think that conflict winds up leaning when it's all said and done?
You know, Andrew, that's a very good question, and it is conflicted, and we're all conflicted, particularly because the Middle East is extremely complex. It does not allow for simple answers, bomb here, bomb there. The people in Raqqa, as a matter of fact, the citizens there are literally prisoners in their own city. So it's complex, and Turkey is not against, they're not, I mean, everybody there has a mission, and it's not the same as the United States.
But again, not to pick on your party, I guess I am picking on your party, but going back to Tuesday night, all we were getting were simple answers to a complex problem. Is that, I know that's tasty, it's easily digestible on a debate stage, but it's not good for you, it's not good for the party.
I don't think it is. And yet people like the strength of, for example, the New Jersey Governor Christie, who says, I'm going to blow the Russian planes out of the sky. I mean, but there's nobody in the right mind who's going to say, look, just go out and start shooting planes. I mean, diplomacy and international relations is far more complex than that debate. And quite frankly, you know, I think Republicans, as I mentioned, I think they're being hurt by these debates by being so simple, kind of one phase of how one conducts diplomacy.
But this is where Dominic tells us it's not about winning the general right now, it's all about winning the primary.
That's the bottom line. And as outrageous as what the governor of New Jersey said at the debate, that's what people want to hear. And that's the problem with a Donald Trump. I call it off the top of my head almost like the John Wayne syndrome. It doesn't matter what you're going to do, you're just going to talk tough. And that's connecting. I don't do a good John Wayne, but that's connecting greatly with the American people.
You actually do a fine John Wayne. Don't sell yourself short.
Don't sell myself short.
That was nicely done, partner. All right, one other bit of news from that poll today. Two big-name candidates now apparently in real trouble. Ben Carson, who recently had been running a close second to Donald Trump, he polled at just 6% nationally in that poll that came out today. Meanwhile, the guy who everybody thought was going to be the front runner going into this thing, Jeb Bush, is at 7%. Now, granted, there's still a lot of people in this race, and being at 6 and 7% still only puts you in 5th and 6th place, respectively. But let me start with Carson, because he was the flavor of the month a couple of weeks ago, and now he seems to have disappeared.
Oh, most definitely. I'm not surprised, though. But the problem for the Republicans right now is they have so many candidates. And, you know, you look at that debate the other night, and you need people to start falling off. And once they start to fall off, then candidates can start to kind of coalesce and gain attention, gain traction, that sort of thing. It's not happening, so you have the polls pretty much, remaining level. I would presume that Carson probably won't be around for a few months, in a few months, and that you may have a few.
After New Hampshire, he's done.
Yeah.
Dom, you agree? Is Ben Carson done?
Ben Carson was a joke from day one. He was never going to be the nominee.
Who gets
Jeb
his support?
Bush. Jeb Bush. This is an improvement. Don't underestimate him. He's been down, but he's not out. And he still has a lot of money.
And I want to get to Bush in 1 second, but where do Carson supporters go when they flee Carson? Do they go to Trump? Do they go to Rubio or Cruz or an establishment candidate?
I would imagine Trump, a majority of them, but who knows?
All right, so Jeb Bush now, he gets more leeway, at least I think he does, than any other candidate in this race, just because he has the name recognition, he has the money, and he has the money. And I know I said money twice, but that's how much money he's got. He's going to have to start winning primaries at some point and actually get into the top of some of these polls, but he can tread water longer than anybody else can, right?
He can, but he's got to change his mode. I mean, he doesn't have the dynamism that he needs to show people he's a leader. And he may be the most qualified in other respects, but this debate he was better, I thought. I thought he did better because he went after Trump directly, and I thought that was an appropriate thing to do. Although Trump, I thought, was going to try to fight him there for a second, telling him to throw him off the
Cruz was
stage.
in between them, so he couldn't get to him.
But he doesn't. He doesn't do well in debates, and unfortunately, that's what people are watching. Now, Carson does pretty well because he takes his time in the debates. He's the anti-Trump, so people like him just because he's different from Trump.
You know, we were talking before about substance versus style. You know, the substance of somebody when it comes to an issue like the Middle East. Jerry, where do you fall on this? Where do you think voters are looking? Are they looking for substance, or do you think more are looking for style?
Oh, I think they're looking for both, but I think style is very much important in these sort of things. But again, I think they want style and they want the substance to back it up. So I saw Jeb Bush again at the debate. He came in with some substance. He doesn't have the charisma that perhaps he needs to win. But I think he is getting, and I don't want to say desperate, but he's got to fight. He's got to show that he can. He may not be the most articulate candidate, but he's smart. He's a wonk. He knows how to do it.
We're a month and a half from Iowa, 2 months from New Hampshire. So a month from now, with a couple of weeks until Iowa and a month before New Hampshire, is Jeb Bush still in a position to strike?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I think he'll stay in just by virtue of the money.
I think he'll stay in also, but is he actually a position where he could actually do some damage and win some primaries?
I think Trump has to continue to make himself silly, which he's been doing regularly, and actually have it stick for him to gain.
Dominic, predict Jeb.
Remember, especially with Iowa, it's a game of expectations. Sometimes a third place finish can be better than a first place finish.
All right, we'll take a break. Up next, it is the happiest place on earth. Well, at least once you get past the new security. Disney had to take the step of banning guns from his parks and give everyone an airport-style screening just to get in. Is this our new normal? We'll get to that next.